Meanwhile, some big funding news out of both GM and Google this morning. Phil LeBeau has that for us. Phil?
Julia, let's start first off with General Motors, which gave investors who are optimistic about the future for General Motors a double dose of news for them to push the shares higher today. The company, first of all, increasing its guidance for Q2, saying it's going to do better than expected, earning at least $8.5 billion. And it's also boosting its EV investment. And it's the EV news that really pushed the stock higher. It is going to be spending now up to $35 billion on EVs through 2025. That's an increase of $8 billion from where they were just a few months ago. They're going to be adding 2 more battery plants, bringing the total number of battery plants in the U.S. to 4 and expand EV capacity. Here is CEO Mary Barra talking about what they are seeing from early demand for the models that they plan to build over the next couple of years.
Whether it's BrightDrop, whether it's some of the commercial vehicle offerings that we're going to have, whether it's the Hummer truck and SUV, the Cadillac Lyriq, customers are, we're getting great customer feedback. And as you know, many of these vehicles, if they have been put on sale, they're already sold out.
As you take a look at this chart, keep in mind that a lot of people are saying, wow, are there really that many EVs that are going to be sold over the next several years? Yes, the expectation is that annual sales in the U.S. alone will top 1 million vehicles for electric vehicles by 2025. By the way, General Motors says a big reason why it's optimistic it will be profitable with these vehicles is that it's going to be cutting its battery costs by up to 60%. That's the news with General Motors and its EV investment. The other investment news getting plenty of attention today is Waymo completing a 2.5 capital raise. This means the company has now raised $5.75 billion since March of last year. Now, a lot of that will go towards funding the Waymo autonomous rideshare program. It's already in operation in the Phoenix area. They plan to bring it to San Francisco, and then it's slowly expanded from there. And again, they have raised more than $5.7 billion since March 2020. As you take a look at shares of Google, remember, Waymo is, or Alphabet, I should say. Waymo is a subsidiary there. And the big question, guys, is when do they commercialize this? When do they start to say, okay, we're not only going to be bringing in capital to grow it, we are now here expecting to make some money off of this unit? That's the big question that's out there.
Always the big question. I find it so interesting, Phil, that Alphabet has so much money on its balance sheet, yet Waymo relies on outside investment to sort of push this technology ahead. Similar with the GM announcement, they raised their target not just for EVs, but for autonomous vehicle technology as well, right? And I wonder, did they break out how much is going towards self-driving technology? And do you think that, especially with Uber and Lyft pulling out of these spaces and selling off their autonomous vehicle units, investors see that promise of commercialization so far off that they're getting a little impatient with money, the huge amounts of money that is needed and being spent on AV?
Two answers here, Deidre. First of all, they did not break that out today. And that was a specific question for the CFO, Paul Jacobson, when they were outlining this investment. Clearly, most of this $35 billion will go towards developing and ramping up electric vehicles over the next 4 years. But there's also a component in there, we don't know exactly how much, that will go into autonomous vehicles. Remember, GM's got a big stakeholder, the primary stakeholder, but not the only one, in Cruise, which is slowly developing its autonomous ride-sharing program out in San Francisco. So GM expects Cruise to pay off at some point. I'm not sure investors are frustrated to the point of saying, what, we're spending more on this? I mean, look what happens every time there's a funding announcement. The stock goes up. Stock goes up for Ford. Stock goes up for other automakers as well. So there is the optimism that this will eventually pay off as the industry transitions towards electric and then ultimately autonomous vehicles. At this point, we have not heard people say, no way, this is too much money that's being spent.